Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about air drying. We're going to talk about the basics and then maybe some advanced techniques. Stick around. So it's a hot, muggy Pennsylvania morning. It's a little after 6 o'clock, and I swear the humidity is like 110%. It's sticky. Quite honestly, it's a bad day for air drying, but yeah, I've been wanting to make this video all week, so this is the time we got to do it. Let's dive into it. So I've never really talked about air drying on this channel before, but it is one of the fundamentals of lumber, especially hardwood lumber. So I figured I'd make a video about it. I have a bunch of stuff here out air drying right now, a lot of different stacks, various types of wood in different stages of air drying. So I figured now is a good time, I'll just kind of go over the basics with you. So basically, if you're not familiar, air drying is what we do with hardwoods before we put them in the kiln. It just helps you kind of get rid of some of that initial moisture. When the lumber comes off the sawmill, it's very wet, very damp. You can feel the moisture in it. It helps you kind of flash off some of that moisture, remove it. So when you put it in the kiln, a lot of times you're getting a better finished product. You're using less energy in the kiln. And we'll kind of get into the nuts and bolts of what should and shouldn't be air dried here in a minute. But that's basically the concept. It has a couple different advantages. It allows you to cycle more wood through your kiln, because obviously if you put lumber in that's dead green right off the sawmill, it takes longer and it takes more energy. So if you can air dry and kind of get a jump start on that out here in the yard where you can stack thousands of feet, then you can cycle your kilns faster. And like I said, depending on your situation, yeah, it's that time of morning, you're just gonna have to deal with that rooster. Depending on your situation, you can get a better product than just put stuff straight in the kiln. So we'll kind of dive into the nuts and bolts on that, what you should and shouldn't air dry in a minute. The basic foundation of air drying, well, no pun intended, starts with the foundation. So I've kind of standardized on my system of how I do this over the years. I've tried different things. But basically the way I set it up, I like to use 6x6s, preferably oak. At least the length of my pile. I try to standardize on 12 foot because that's usually the longest I saw, although I've got stacks up to 20 foot. You can put 8-foot lumber on a 12-foot pile, you can't go vice versa. So I always like to set my air dry piles up longer if I can. So I'll take 2 oak 6x6s. They're my lengthwise bases, and on top of that I'll put down 2x4s or 4x4s as cross members. The key to them is that they're all the same thickness, and one of the most important keys, possibly the most important key to air drying, your base has to be flat. If your base isn't flat and level, your lumber's not going to be. If it has a twist to it, if it racks, that lumber is going to follow that, because green lumber is very flexible. And when you stack it, it's going to follow whatever contour you stack it on. But when it dries, it becomes stiff. And once it dries to that curve, forget it. It's going to stay that way. So you need it to be dead flat and level from the start. So I support my piles, let's get rid of that mare's tail there. I support my piles on cement blocks, and I'll put one on each end and one in the middle on something like a 12-foot pile here. That's plenty of support. I'm on relatively flat ground, so that gives me enough support that this won't flex or bow. And I don't so much worry about level this way. I mean, if that runs downhill or however your terrain runs, that's fine. It doesn't have to be level with the ground. But what is important is that these cross members are all level, and that puts everything in the same plane. You know, no matter how you're set up, no matter how you get there, that's what you want to make sure is that you have a flat vertical plane. Doesn't have to be level, but it does have to be perfectly straight and flat. So that's your base. And from there, you can stack your lumber. Now I stack at the sawmill and I move this with a forklift and set on these bases. So I use these bases over and over again. I'll put it out here with the forklift, air dry it, move it into the kiln, and move a new stack here. But you can hand stack right on these bases if that's your situation. So you build your stack up. It's very important that your stickers are in a vertical line with your base. You know, this may not be the finest sticker job I've ever done, but for me this is close enough to, you know, vertical. They're not all in a perfect line, but the idea here is that each sticker supports the one above it. And with your stickers, I've talked about stickers in the past. I use different types of stickers. I use regular hardwood stickers like you see here, and I use the airflow stickers for different types of wood. We'll get into that in a second. But you just want all your stickers the same thickness. Another key principle that often gets overlooked: if your stickers are different thicknesses, your board is going to follow those highs and lows, and you're not going to get straight lumber. So that's your basic foundation, and you build up. And the key is just to make sure all your ends are supported. You wouldn't want to put longer lumber on top of shorter lumber unless you do something to support the ends, because any unsupported end is just going to twist and turn. For weather protection, the best thing I've found is old metal roofing, which has actually become harder to find these days. People want to use stuff like this for renovation projects and rustic looking projects, so this stuff is actually kind of a tough thing to track down. But you want some kind of cover on the top that air can flow through freely, but you're going to keep the sun and the rain off. A little bit of rain and air drying is not the end of the world. You can see here there's some water stain on this stuff, but that planes right off. So you will, you know, you'll get blowing rains like we had last night, and it will get some water on the edges of these stacks. As long as you're protecting from direct water going down through the stacks, because that wetting and drying will ruin this top lumber. That's one thing wood can't really take, particularly certain types of wood like white oak. Does not do well with that constant wetting and drying. Same way sunlight. I mean, sunlight's hard on everything, but that will ruin those top stacks. But it's amazing, even if you skip that step and don't cover it, you get down 2-3 layers and, you know, the wood looks pretty good. So that is one thing. If you have to cut a corner, if you don't have a cover for this, put your junk boards on top a layer or two, and that will kind of serve as a cover in a way. One thing you never want to do, don't ever tarp this. You know, I've heard of guys, they think they're ahead of the game by tarping it. No, that's a recipe for disaster. You're going to lock all that moisture in. The whole point is to allow air to flow through here, let the moisture out. And you tarp this, you're just going to get moldy lumber. You're going to have bug infestations. It's going to be a problem. So you always want to just cover the top at the most and let air flow through your sides. Same way with the bottom. You always want to keep your grass trimmed down, or, you know, it'd be better if you're stacking on gravel if you're so fortunate. If you have weeds and stuff growing up, well, now the air can't go through. When those weeds get wet, they're pushing water into the stack. It's habitat for pests. So you want to keep this trimmed down so you get nice airflow. Another key thing, if you can swing it, stack in the direction of the prevailing wind. So in other words, stack it so the prevailing wind can flow through the stack. So for us here, the prevailing wind comes from the west. So I stack my lumber north-south. So that airflow is flowing through the stack. Gives you nice even drying. Not absolutely 100% critical, but if you can swing it, you're going to be better off. So there's a little pro tip for you. that's the basics of what you want to do, and if you follow those, you'll be in good shape. Some more advanced stuff. What should you air dry? What shouldn't you air dry? All of my oak gets air dried. Unless I absolutely need to get it in the kiln as soon as possible, my oak gets air dried. I get better finished product that way. You save energy. Oak is very resilient. You can get oak that looks, well, I'll show you, because this is actually a customer stack of oak that's been here for 2 years, because, well, he brought me the logs and was going to build a house, and well, the project got stalled out. So I've been sitting on this oak, unfortunately, for 2 years, and I kind of wish it wasn't here. But I'll show you here. That looks pretty terrible, doesn't it? It's gray, weathered. I guarantee you, if you'd run a piece of that through the planer, it would look like brand new. So oak is very forgiving, does not stain much. So there's, well, doesn't really stain at all. So that's one that's very flexible, especially thicker oak. I would not put 2-inch plus oak in my kiln. I just wouldn't do it. It does not dry well unless you're running something like a vacuum kiln. You're going to have problems if you try to dry green, thick oak. So that always gets air dried until you lose some moisture, and then you can finish it in the kiln. So everybody's sawing different stuff, so I won't go through a whole list, but basically there's certain things that, you know, there's no harm, no foul by air drying. You do need to be careful air drying though. There are certain woods that are going to cause you a lot of problems if you try to air dry them. Primarily the white woods, maple, poplar, ash, which unfortunately we don't have too much of anymore here. Lighter woods, I try not to air dry as much as I can. I try to get them in the kiln as quickly as possible. They will stain. They can get sticker stain, and what sticker stain is, wherever a sticker hits the board, once that piece is dried and you go to machine it, you'll see a little shadow line across the board where the sticker sat. And you can plane and plane all you want, you're not going to get rid of that. It's very common in maple and poplar. That's why I use the airflow stickers, which I don't think I have any handy here, but you can look back in some of my other videos to see what the airflow stickers are, or just Google it. They allow more airflow and don't leave those lines on the board. So my whitewoods, I try to kiln dry as quickly as I can, just to stabilize them. And once they get down in moisture content, then they're stable, and you won't get a lot of those staining issues. A lot of your defects in drying happen above 20% moisture content. So once you get below that point, a lot of your staining risk, a lot of your twisting, turning, cupping, all those issues are kind of in the past. You don't have to worry about them as much. So some woods are fine to air dry. Some woods you want to get in that kiln as quickly as you can and get that moisture out. Pine is another one. I had, when I originally was going to do this video, like 2 weeks ago, I had about 5,000 feet of pine sitting out here air drying. Well, I cycled that stuff through the kiln just as fast as I could, because this is no weather to dry pine in. You will get blue stain. I'm sure a lot of you have seen pine with that blue streaks through it. That goes straight through the wood. Can't plane it off, and you'll be stuck with it. So if that's not, you know, a look you're going for, well, then you got to get that stuff dried as quick as you can. The season has a big impact. You know, I'll air dry pine all winter long. That's no problem. Same way with the whitewoods. If you're in a pinch and you saw maple in the middle of winter, you can air dry it. You'll have no problems. But here in summer, at least where I'm at, where it's very humid and sticky, you don't have good airflow, you don't have good drying weather, that's where you're going to run into trouble. So the season has an effect on air drying. And we'll at some point probably make a video on air drying versus kiln drying, But that is the big reason why you need to kiln dry. Right now in summer here in Pennsylvania, this lumber is going to dry very slow, and you just cannot possibly get below 12% moisture content. It's just not going to happen. In fact, it's probably going to be higher than that. If you get a string of weather like we're having right now with these thunderstorms every day and it's just so humid, the relative humidity is very high, which just means this lumber is not going to evaporate moisture. Now in the winter, humidity is lower. In the spring, around here in particular, and this isn't going to be the same everywhere, our relative humidity is low, and we get strong winds and we get nice dry sunny days. I can actually dry pine out here. I've had weather where I stack pine out and in a week it's dried to kiln dry levels. Now I will still finish it in the kiln to sterilize it and set the sap, but you technically can dry lumber if you hit it right and you know what you're doing. You technically can dry lumber to kiln dried levels, but you can't sterilize and you can't do some of the other things we do in the kiln. So yes, I know everybody says you'll never get lumber down to kiln dried levels outside. That's technically not true, which you probably don't hear many places. You can if you're in the right environment and you know what you're doing, you get the right conditions. But I still always recommend kiln drying. But I'm kind of getting sidetracked. We'll make a video about that later. You know, the differences and some benefits of kiln drying. But the bottom line is, like everything in most businesses, it takes practice. I've messed up plenty of lumber, believe me. I've had piles that I let sit too long. I can't say I've had piles I've let sit not long enough. That's not really too big an issue. You won't really, well, if you know how you're running your kiln, you won't really ruin it that way. But the big thing is you can let stuff sit out too long, or you can let it sit out in the wrong season if it's the wrong type of wood. So there's just a learning curve, you know. As you work with wood, you start to learn the properties of the different types of wood. Like I can tell you this cherry here, there's no problem air drying this. I won't have an issue with this. I happen to know this is going to be tongue and groove paneling. I sawed it for a customer, and in about 2 months this is becoming paneling. So I know the finished product with this. So for me, a little bit of air dried weathering on the side is fine, because I'm planing it off. If this was going to be retail grade lumber, well, maybe I would be a little bit more careful and think about getting this in the kiln about now, so I don't get more weather on it, because obviously weathered lumber doesn't present as nice as clean lumber. So those are the types of things you got to think about. What type of wood is it? What am I using it for? Some people, you know, I've been paid to weather lumber already, where guys just wanted it to sit out. They wanted that gray lumber, and I've actually weathered stuff for people already. So, you know, there's, I guess, two sides of that coin. There's a lot of intricacies, like most things. So hopefully I made this clear as mud for you. If you guys got any questions for me, let me know. I don't want to get into every hypothetical situation here, because I feel like I'm already rambling on a little bit. But I hopefully showed you the basics. Maybe I gave you a tip or two you didn't know. You know, I know this isn't groundbreaking. There's probably plenty of other information about it, but it's my take on it. It's how I do it. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you later.